Hey everybody, welcome. I'm Valorie Ness-Sonnemaker. You're about to observe some of my favorite things from one of my workouts. You'll see lots of different equipment and different techniques. I hope you enjoy it.
Begin by rolling out the plantar fascia. Starting at the bottom of the foot makes sense as all ground reaction forces go through the foot and ankle. Take time when rolling out to make sure that you get the flat part of the foot, the inside arch of the foot, and the outside of the foot. Remember to take your time, go nice and slow. Imagine like you're kneading dough. Many times people find tender spots on the inside arch of the foot. They also find tender spots on the ball of the big toe on the inside. So watch as Valorie gets onto the ball of the big toe on the inside there, and oftentimes people have issues with flexor hallucis longus. Valorie, why do you have your hand on the viper?
To help me balance,
Why do you need help balancing?
so that my body can relax and I don't need to worry about tensing my muscles in order to try and achieve balance.
Good, and what do we call that?
Third point of contact.
And what would we use if we didn't have a viper?
A wall, a friend.
Perfect. Valorie is now performing trigger point on the soleus. She's going to move back and forth nice and slowly with her left leg bending her knee, making sure to take a deep breath in as she lifts the knee and exhale as she extends the knee. She's going to perform this 4 times, so one more time. Exhale, good. Now, she's going to take her right leg, slide it up her left leg so that it clears her left foot. She now lifts her left ankle, lifting her left toes towards her knee. 1 and 2. Remember to take nice deep breaths. We want to make sure we've got plenty of oxygen and we're nice and relaxed. Now she begins 2 clockwise circles. Nice and slow, nice deep breaths, followed by 2 counterclockwise circles. Next thing she's going to do is shear force. So she's going to slide or shift her left leg from left to right, making sure to get some cross friction through that soleus. She performs that 2 times. She then is going to do the inside portion of her soleus. Once you have performed the 4-2-2 protocol on the back of the leg, let's now focus on the inside portion of the soleus. Notice how Valorie medially rotates her leg and slides along the footballer. She doesn't lift. The important point here is that we want to keep compression in the tissue and not lift up the leg to turn it. Once she's turned the leg, she's going to slowly bend the knee 4 times. Again, she's going to follow through with a protocol of 4-2-2. That's 4 knee bends, nice and slow, nice deep breaths. After performing 4 times, she'll slide her right leg up so that it's above the footballer, doing her 2 foot pumps, nice deep breaths in and out, followed by 2 clockwise circles, and then 2 counterclockwise circles. After performing the circles, she'll do shear force or cross friction by shifting the leg back and forth, left to right 2 times. She'll then slide her leg, externally rotating the leg. Oftentimes a little hip shift there also helps. And now she goes back to doing 4 knee bends, 2 foot pumps, 2 circles in each direction, and 2 shear force. It's important to remember to keep breathing constantly in and out to help the body relax and to make sure that we have lots of fresh oxygen for the tissue. Valorie will now use the trigger point therapy ball, or TP ball as we like to refer to it as, on her gastrocnemius. She's going to place the ball in the middle of her gastroc, in the lower portion, right in the center. She's then going to take a deep breath in. As she does, she pulls her toes towards her knee, and then she's going to exhale and slap the ground with her foot. She does this 3 more times for a total of 4 times. Now she's going to do 2 circles clockwise, followed by 2 circles counterclockwise, making sure to take nice deep breaths with each one. When she's done, she's going to shift her leg approximately 1 to 2 inches to her left so that the ball is now pushing on the medial head or inside portion of her gastroc, making sure to keep her knee pointed straight up towards the ceiling. It's just a shift of the leg, and it's tender and uncomfortable, which is why you saw her squirming there. She now proceeds back through the same 4-2-2 protocol of 4 foot pumps followed by 2 circles in each direction, making sure to take nice deep breaths with each one. After performing her 2 foot circles in each direction, she will then shift her left leg laterally, or you could say she's going to adduct her left leg so that the ball shifts to the outside of her gastrocnemius on the lateral portion, and she's going to proceed with the 4 foot pumps followed by 2 circles in each direction. Another one of Valorie's favorite exercises to warm up with is to use the trigger point therapy grid on her Erector Spinae. She's going to place the grid in her low back. She's going to lean back, and as she does, she's going to lift her hips and walk her feet away from the grid so that the grid ends up at the top of her shoulders. Just like that. She's going to lift her arms up towards the ceiling, and she can either leave her arms in that position, she can put her hands on her ears, and she can now bend her elbows, bringing them together, and by doing so, she's exposing the tissue in her upper thoracic and scapular regions. She's going to slowly roll back and forth, 1 to 2 inches down towards her waist, and then she comes back up towards the shoulders, half of that distance, down 1 to 2 inches towards her waist, back up half that distance, so that she's continually getting overlap and slowly working her way down towards her tailbone or her waistline. Now, oftentimes, people will find some discomfort or find it very challenging to hold the torso up when they get into the low back. If that's the case, it's okay to slowly lower the head and shoulders down towards the ground, thus supporting the weight of the body, the upper torso, and they can still begin to work the Erector Spinae and the tissue along the spine, getting into the low back. And once she hits the top of the glutes, she'll go ahead and stop. Now, she has 2 choices at this point. She can turn to the side and roll over, or she can extend her right leg, dig her heel into the ground. So if she extends her right leg and digs her heel into the ground, she then does a hamstring leg curl and follows with the left leg to pull herself up. Now, Val is ready to hit her workout. After performing inhibition or myofascial compression techniques to address the knots in her overactive myofascial tissue, Valorie enjoys beginning her workout with Redcord neuromuscular activation techniques. The first exercise she likes to start with is the supine pelvic lift. She's going to begin by extending her right leg, lift her left leg so that her left thigh is just below her right thigh. She's now going to press down into the narrow sling, lifting her hips. This movement here is supine pelvic lift. If she goes up and down slowly and touching the ground lightly with her glutes. Now to add in an element of internal rotation, to turn on the internal rotators of her right hip and leg, she's going to add in this rotation. Notice that she drops the left hip below the waistline, lifts it up as high as she can, taking care to make sure that the right foot and leg stay straight and in a neutral position the entire time. To advance the exercise or progress it to make it more challenging, she could bring her arms across her chest, just like this, thus decreasing her base of support. Stop. This is a great example of an exercise that loads the back functional line. Right now, Valorie has loaded her right glute max and her left latissimus dorsi. Sideline adduction. Valorie is going to lift her left leg. She's going to let it hover in the air. She's now going to press down with her right leg, thus lifting her left hip up off the ground. She's going to slowly lower herself back down, lightly touch her left hip and lift again. Sideline adduction loads the adductors of her top leg and also is a great exercise to load the spiral line and front functional lines. To increase the level of difficulty with this exercise, increase the length of the lever arm. Watch as Valorie moves forward, bringing the narrow sling down to the foot ankle. Now notice as she does this, the height of the narrow sling now needs to be readjusted ideally so that it is above her shoulder just as it was with the short lever arm position. Notice she can still perform the movement, but it's going to be much more challenging because she's not able to get the right type of leverage. Notice how we've increased the length of the lever arm and raised the narrow sling up so that it's now at the height of her shoulder or just slightly above. Now she's going to lift her left leg, push down with her right leg, and by pressing down with her right leg, she is able to generate force that lifts her hips. The next exercise is sideline abduction. This is for her left lateral line, specifically her left gluteus medius. She's going to lift her right leg up, put it against the back of the Redcord emblem. She's keeping both legs and hips in slight hip extension. She's then going to press down with her left leg, lifting her hips up as high as she can, and the movement of the lifting of the hips comes from the pressing of the legs, not the actual lifting of the hips, which would be done by the right external obliques. Up and down, or it can be held for an isometric hold. To increase the intensity of this exercise, just as we did in sideline adduction, we would move to a longer lever arm. But anytime we move to a longer lever arm, we generally need to readjust the height of the ropes. So in this case, she's going to need to slightly raise the ropes up. So watch as she sits up. She pulls down, pushes in to lock it in place. And she just needs to raise it up just a little bit to compensate for the length of the lever arm increasing. With the increased lever arm, Valerie's also going to have to show an increased effort to get her hips up. We could further increase the intensity of this exercise as well as the sideline adduction by moving to the forearm. Next, Valerie is going to perform one of her favorite Surge 360 metabolic series. She's going to begin from a square stance and perform an alternating lunge with bilateral push and row. So she steps forward with the right leg pushing, pulls back, steps forward with the left leg, pulls back. She can push very aggressively. She can also pull back very aggressively. She's going to perform 20 repetitions since she's alternating legs. She could also break this exercise down and perform on one side at a time, stepping forward consistently with the left leg, then stepping forward consistently with the right leg. To increase the intensity of the exercise, if she slides her hands down the poles and holds just at the silver portion, as she pushes and pulls back, now she has to apply more force. Notice she grimaced a little with the increased intensity, but she showed us that beautiful smile that we know and love. The next exercise Valerie will perform are frontal plane slides with stationary feet. From a square stance, she's going to move her arms side to side, performing 10 repetitions on each side. Notice how the more intensity she puts into the equipment, the more intensity it gives back to her. If she goes slow, it goes slow. If she goes fast, it's going to make her work harder to go at that speed. The next exercise is 45-degree footprint to half-moon rotations. She'll perform 10 repetitions on each side.
enjoyed this as much as I do. Look forward to the next one.